Welcome back to the Xylophone Lambasting News Channel. Do appreciate you sticking with us here through the break. We are ready to resume our regularly scheduled programming, which again is the fact that our casters have all brought some stories together about Heavy League today and have provided those stories for other casters to tell. You can follow along with all of those stories on the convenient teleprompter on your screen. So do read along, do follow along, and we hope you will enjoy the research that all of our casters have done here about all of our wonderful personalities in Heavy League. But with that, we will open the night here at XLNC. Friends, summoners, countrymen, lend me your ears. We've got breaking news tonight here at the Xylophone Lambasting News Channel, XLNC, where we remind you that xylophones could do better. I'm DJ. Yeah, that's it. I'm DJ. And have you heard of our Lord and Savior, Dia Christ? Am I pointing the right way? Is it this way? Is it that way? You see me?
It's the other way. It's the other way. It's the other way.
It's the other way. Oh, there it is. Okay. He's come down to Earth to suffer the sins of men, a.k.a. League of Legends. First up, let's take a look at the standings in Excellency Heavy League and get a recap of what has been going on around the league. And yes, xylophones are still inferior, of course. The field has been pretty messy and hard to predict with the way the schedules have worked out and all the forfeits we've seen so far, while I, as a superior analyst, have determined that first place is better than seventh place. There are some who disagree, but they're plebeians. I'm always right. Strength of schedule is irrelevant, and we're going to talk about the upper crust of the teams first. At the top, we have Who Flashed That Fight. I don't know if there's supposed to be a visual there or not, but regardless, officially, it wasn't me. Apparently, it was Glaive, Lotus, and Sparta Prime. Because oh wait, there's our, oh, I see. Okay, yeah. Oh
yeah. My God. Oh
RMC,
my God.
Where did you get? This is private property here. This is okay. Anyway, officially, that wasn't me. Apparently, it was Glaive, Lotus, Sparta Prime because Who Flashed That Fight let them off easy and gave them one win apiece for the pleasure. As for Rage Quit Esports Arctic, it was apparently too cold for them to properly flash, and YO Boomer's arthritic hands were unable to press the F key in time. If you bind D to flash, you're degenerate, like a xylophone.
Yes.
Tied behind them for second are two of the three flashers that we've mentioned, Lotus and Glaive Onyx. Breaking news, Necrox might have predicted something better than me for once, and I might have to retire as a color caster. Oof, that's a rough one. Lotus is blooming, and blooming well in this xylophone hate-filled league. Last week, saw them breaking into a retirement home and picking on retired seniors. And that's about the kind of thing that retired seniors can see there on your screen. That said, the retirees put up quite a fight, giving Lotus a bit of a shiner as well. It wasn't pretty, but then again, neither am I, and you can't deny it still got Lotus up in the standings. Glaive Onyx is the team that everyone loves to hate, despite literally being a completely different team than the one that won the previous split. But that's okay, because you're Glaive, and not a xylophone. We accept you here. Glaive has been the bouncer of the league. If you've been here before, like Lotus, Who Flashed That Fight, they'll give you some wins. If you're new, Gamers for God, LBK Lemons, Rage Quit Esports. Sheesh! Currently in fourth place is Sparta Prime, yet another flasher. I'm starting to see a trend here in Heavy League. At the start of the split, this team looked about as good as RMC, packing on quarantine pounds, as you can see there.
Oh my God.
But they've shaped up quite nicely since, and whatever they Who Flashed That Fight seems to have worked. While they've been crushing it recently, they'll be up against Lotus tonight. I've heard that particular flower can be quite a man-eater, at least from Necrox. And to round out the top half of the league, we've got Gamers for God, Dia's personal favorite here, the only team in the top 5 who have yet to flash that fight. For now, as tonight, these two teams will be encountering each other in a secluded place, off stream. Well, we won't speculate, but hopefully Gamers for God have their summer bods ready. That said, we have a Gamers for God symbol here. Any words for the faithful, Dia Christ? No. You don't get to say anything. Nope, nothing. Nope. Yeah, absolutely nothing. Okay, well, they're screwed, and not even Dia can save them now. We'll be sure to toss you a xylophone to commemorate your evening in hell.
Huh. Well, moving down the list, we find New Age Frosty the Snowman tied with the Gamers for 5th at 8 and 7, and if you think that joke is bad, well, you're just wrong, because Age King is literally rolling a giant snowball away from your mid laner's mom's house, shouting, "I'll be back again someday!" Now, the name change to Frost was a bit surprising to me after New Age went to the very warm waters of Rio to find their new mid laner. This addition is greatly added to their scrappy style, as evidenced by the fact that they have split games with their opponents in every single matchup through 5 weeks. Hopefully the new Rio boy can keep his form up so New Age doesn't have an ending as bad as the movies was. But hey, until we see some clean 3-0 series from them, the best we can probably hope for is a blazing bronze medal. AoE God Squad have also had a rickety ride this season, sitting just outside the playoff spots at 7th at 6 and 9. To be fair, 6 of their losses have been attributed to forfeits, and they've looked pretty good after ascending from the void that was Orbital, thanks to Assisted's new corporate overlords over at AoE. They've swept aside last season's semi-finalists, the WYO Boomers, and took 2 games off a rapidly rising Gamers for God. Now that being said, dropping a game against a team whose name literally states that they are for God, and hence for your team, is a bit dubious when trading, perhaps. Not to mention that they were too scared to show up against the Kratos lookalikes at Sparta Prime, which tells me that somebody at AoE has been playing more God of War than League of Legends. LBK Lemons, of course, are next in 8th place, sporting a record of 4 and 12. That record gets a little worse when you realize that they took 2 games off of WYO Boomers in week 1, and, if you're following along and past 5th grade math, unlike most play-by-play casters, you know that means it's only been 2 wins in 4 weeks for the Lemons. It's not a great look. They're quickly running the risk of turning into those lemons that are all green and misshapen, you know, those like really weird cancery ones. And by the end of the season, well, and the end of the shipment, the people really only take them when they've totally forgotten that the recipe called for a lemon and not a monster to show up at the store way too late on a Wednesday. Not that I would know, because I shop on time. Let's hope that our new squad figures out how to make some lemonade out of, well, themselves. I guess, and themselves, I guess, and that it ends up being a little more sweet than you don't have to slow down this thing for me, than sour in the coming weeks. Finally, we round out the standings with a tie for 9th between WYO Boomers and Rage Quit Esports Arctic, both sitting at 3 and 12. For last split semifinalists, the questions abound. Are they finally over the hill? Can they even left click anymore? Are their minds as mushy as the pudding they get from Wyoming Retirement Home? Does Papa Francesco know how to spread the word of top lane to the Zoomers of Heavy League? Can you teach an old goat new tricks? Is Birdman now less badass Marvel Universe Birdman Michael Keaton, and more senile, nostalgic Birdman Michael Keaton? The saddest part is, even if he looks more like the old senile version, that Michael Keaton has actually won a trophy. As for Rage Quit, the constant struggle created by the duality of their name has made this a difficult split thus far. I mean, how can you be continually consumed by the flaming desire to Rage Quit and try to balance that with the freezing chill of the Arctic tundra? It's a very difficult task. This blatant oversight at Rage Quit has sometimes made it difficult for the team to even remember when their games are scheduled to, let alone even win those games. We here at Heavy League would prescribe a healthy dose of lavender incense, yoga, and maybe some late game scaling to alleviate the constant inner struggle. But unfortunately, our staff doctor left us months ago, and citing lack of pay, we could only find a random caster minion to replace him. Now that wraps up the current standings here in the Heavy League, so we'll send it over to Necrox to educate us on the weather. We'll find out what that means right over.
Thank you, and good evening, summoners. I have taken the liberté of Etang Mr. What even is this? Mr. Necrox, so as to inform you of the troubling situation in my neighborhood. There is no longer the weather. This is celebrity gossip. I am, of course, the celebrity of which we speak, and it is my complaints which we will be discussing. I have been troubled by the presence and perpetuation of the undignified company that has been my selected to grace my rift. Didn't say that right. When I agreed to Mr. Yate Kelton's Heavy League, I was assured that mine and my daughter's quality of life and friendships would go undisturbed. Since then, the quality of the company has decreased substantially, both in character and volume. In the first week, things were acceptable, and I was surrounded by true champions. Volibear, Galio, Cho'Gath, beings of respectable sizes. I was at work, to be sure, but I was happy. The second and third weeks, however, brought a sharp decline in the neighborhood's company. All of a sudden, people were picking champions of disgustingly small sizes, like Dia's brain. With little needles to throw at my face, Tristana and Varus began to weasel their way onto my property. I will say, Set was a bearable addition. He stopped by my home for tea in the third week quite a few times, and was quite the gentleman. But the yordle he brought with him sometimes makes me squirm a little bit. I said to Shelly and Geraldina, I said, we'll give it a few more weeks. I sent notice to Yake, and he promised to fix it. He sent Nautilus to fix the problem, and Nautilus did little to calm our fears. I have no clue what that word means, but I'll whisper anyway. Sometimes that one, I think, could be a yordle? But even Nautilus brought this plague with him. More Tristana, and worse, Varus. Varus, who I hate with every fiber of my being. Varus, who can't decide what build path he likes. On-hit, lethality, AP. Who has helped murder me every chance he gets. I have been murdered 82 times in 5 weeks. My daughter's worst 115 times. They've been poked in the eyes by this damn quiver, forced to give their lives for the capitalist scum that runs amok here. No longer. If you do not meet my demand, summoners, you will all end up like your dear Necrox. My words be marked. Take it away, RMC.
Thank you, Mr. Necrox. Good morning, everyone. I am RMC, also known as Really Mediocre Casting, and this is your Summoner's Rift traffic report. Dun 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 dun. First, a collision in the top river over the Scuttle Crab has caused a backup for all junglers on their way to gank the top lane. The two involved in the incident were named My Hairline and My Career. Both went up in flames. You can see me on the LCS with Freak and Azale. For the top laners, they are safe to go back to work, as they do not do much other than press TP every once in a while anyway. You have the go-ahead to watch TikToks on your phone while walking back to lane and trade grass props like good NA talent. Next, heavy traffic near bot lane, as the supports, aka the mouth breathers of Summoner's Rifts, are trying to int their carries by fighting over vision 3 minutes before Drake spawns. We have seen this throughout the week So try and stay clear of this side of the map, as honestly, Stingus just wants to AFK farm anyways, and he paid me good to say this. Thanks in advance. Would have preferred money. Third, the center of attention, just like myself, the mid lane. Tonight, we expect mid to be about as exciting as Dia's teamfight calls. Resident Sleeper. Or just in case you didn't get the point, mid lane matchup between Rio and Warspite is as useful as when Necrox says big damage in a teamfight. Because this crap is so troll. It's time to pivot like I always do in the early game narrative. Finally, a clear jungle. The pathing is clear and travel times are low. So great news. Farm all you want in the upcoming future. If I'll be honest, I don't really understand how pathing works. I just asked DJ before every game, and he gives me a pep talk about how I am smart and handsome. Just kidding! There is one more thing for me to break down for you, and here it is.
Oh, thank you, RMC, for not sounding like a xylophone, though you kind of looked like one tonight there, Mr. Traffic Stoplight. Now that we've heard some interesting info about the weather and the traffic, it's time for some irrelevant statistics about the league that no one, absolutely no one, asked me to look at. Let's start with gold versus wins. I've taken the liberty to look at whether more gold tends to mean that teams are more likely to win games. As you can see in the graph, there's an upward line, which should mean yes, but statistics are made up anyways, and the dots are more scattered than Necrox's play-by-play, so no, gold doesn't matter, and farming is irrelevant. So what does matter in League of Legends? Well, out of all the stats we looked at, it turned out that KDA had the strongest correlation to wins. In other words, kills win games, sheeple. Wake up and start focusing on enemy champions. No such thing as overchasing. You gotta kill them all. And by the way, Rumble is a mid laner, not a jungler. For our matchup tonight, second place Glaive Onyx makes an average of 55,698 gold per game, while tied 5th New Age Frost is right there with them at an average of 54,669 gold per game. Further showing the gold means nothing other than more xylophones, which suck. Do xylophones suck? Yeah, they suck. Comparing the much more important KDA stat, Glaive Onyx are sitting pretty at 3.4 average KDA per game, while New Age Frost are at a measly 2.7 average KDA per game. If you need further proof, just look at another important stat. Nexus is lost. Glaive Onyx has only lost 5 Nexi, while New Age Frost have lost 7, so Glaive is just clearly superior. And the only question remaining is, since New Age Frost is another old-timer team, will Glaive win trade with them as well? We'll have to find out later on in the night, but with that, we'll throw it over to Dia for some breaking news.
In shocking news, our network yesterday received a full, in-depth report from one of our investigative color casters. We recently sent this caster on a sting-us operation with the local authorities. The target of the investigation was the new and rapidly growing religious group here in the Heavy League district, Gamers for God. It's been discovered by our source that the aforementioned gamers, who I will refer to as G4G for brevity's sake from here on out, have been taking in the needy at the bottom end of the Heavy League table and slowly sucking away their resources and souls to fuel their rapid rise into the hallowed playoffs positions. We'll take a look at the cases one by one to provide an accurate summary of the situation. The most recent victim taken into the facility was New Age Frost. We were fortunate enough for our source to obtain a brief interview with Age King, who had some free respawn time in his schedule after he died trying to gank at level 2 again. Apparently, they were lured into the trap when G4G offered them a pact to be signed in blood, 1 free win, and no Jarvan the Fourth bans for the rest of eternity. The shady pact quickly backfired, though, when a hidden clause about daily tithing cost New Age losses in their next 2 games against G4G, and meant that Nunu's Snowball would forever have inverted controls, making him eternally unplayable. Age King cut the interview short, however, as he said he had to go to work on his Xin Zhao mechanics, making sure to emphasize that it would definitely require skill and lots of practice time. Next, a couple members of AoE God Squad were spotted in the highest room in the facility. We discovered that they weren't actually trapped at all, since obviously G4G would have to defer to their judgment, being God and all, but they were still waiting for everything to come together to bring their glory onto the rift. A brief scan of the room, however, showed no signs of a coherent group or identity just yet, and instead mostly consisted of self-printed statistical awards for Paxax and Runeweaver throwing rocks at the wall while playing a surfing simulator. According to our source, as he walked through the kitchen, he actually saw the entirety of LBK lemons sitting neatly in a picnic basket. Based on the wrinkled skins and bruises in the lemons, the lemons had clearly been taking some L's in recent weeks. Some additional digging uncovered quite a bit of lemonade inside the refrigerator, indicating the lemons had been a favored source of nutrition for both G4G and their guests. A post-it note is found next to the basket suggested they would be offered up next week as a sacrifice to the God Squad. Finally, the authorities found the WYO Boomers and Rage Quit Esports locked in a large shed away from the rest of the facility. There was no way to tell how long they'd been trapped back there, as both were in a state of complete mental delirium. The Boomers seemed unaware of who they were playing and what their record was, and they visibly struggled to use their hands or show any coordination. Rage Quit was in a complete fever pitch after not seeing a win in 3 weeks, and when asked what had occurred by our source, Rage Quit turned around and asked him what time it was. After responding, Rage Quit turned away angrily, muttering something about rescheduling. The entire situation is truly a travesty, and one that our community must come together and sorry, what is that? Oh, sorry. He did what? Yeah. Okay, yes, I understand. Sorry. Ladies and gentlemen, I've received word from our producers that our color caster for this stingus operation, DJ, did not report his findings in an appropriate manner. In fact, his submission to our network was actually identical to the one found on a fan fiction forum posted under the username Uwu I Heart Huggy Wuggy, which was matched to the IP address of his home PC. It turns out Gamers for God have actually been attempting to help these struggling teams get back on their feet instead of sucking them dry. How interesting! Who could have predicted this, DJ? Both the Boomers and Rage Quit were placed in the shed to give them space to sort through their early season issues. The Boomers, in fact, were just waking up from their off-season nap and have been getting themselves readjusted to the fast-paced and rapidly changing nature of Heavy League, while Rage Quit just needed a safe space to vent their rage after they fell victim to their greatest weakness: scheduling. The eternal Thursday. What are we gonna do? The Lemons are actually scheduled to visit the God Squad next week in order to receive advice and a holy blessing. Finally, the blood on the blood pact of New Age Frost. Ketchup. Oh my god. DJ lives in Chicago and he doesn't actually know what ketchup is. Anyway, G4G have actually been rewarded for their humanitarian efforts with a playoff spot. But they'll have to continue to work hard and follow God's plan, #ILoveDrake, to keep it. We here at Xylophone Lambasting News Channel do vehemently apologize for our caster's complete incompetence, and assure you, we will take swift action against him. At least now, everyone here knows not to trust any of DJ's predictions or power rankings. God, whatever his analysis is, just take it with a grain of salt. From everybody here at XLNC, have a good night. That's me throwing it to AD, producer.